Good afternoon from Lake Wanaka. Dougal Allen here with Chris Willett, the Regional Youth Academy Leader for Triathlon New Zealand. Welcome back to those who followed the amazing individual and relay racing that happened this morning. And before we move on to what's next, I just want to revisit our national championship races this morning. Chris, what happened out there?
We had some great racing this morning. The conditions were relatively favourable. It's great. The rain stayed away and we had a great morning of racing, which is great. So we're just going to summarise some results for you. We're just going to pick out the winners from the categories, just to give a little bit of a shout out. So in the intermediate individuals, we had Ollie Aitken from Medbury School take out the boys, and Kaylin Gray from Cambridge Middle School take out the girls in those categories. In the under 14 individuals, we had Lucas Reid from Palmerston North Boys High School. Bit of a history with Lucas. I think his dad was quite good at triathlon.
Genetics.
Yeah. And Lily Greenwood from Rangiruru Girls School won the under 14 girls. And the under 16s, we had Quade McLaughlin from Rangiora. Quade's part of the Canterbury Triathlon Academy there, which is great racing, good form. And his teammate Morgan Flanagan from Cashmere High School took out the girls' title. And then finally, in the under 19s, we had Ollie Larkham from St Paul's Collegiate School in Hamilton take out the boys, and the girls with a storming run this morning. Charlie Miller, I'm yet to see the splits, but she ran a lot of time into the girls.
That was an incredible race, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so here we are this afternoon with the mixed team relay event, which we'll talk about a lot more as we go. But first of all, Chris, conditions. We had forecasts for torrential rain coming at about this time. How are you seeing things for the mixed team relay?
Yeah, well, we can't see the top of any of the hills surrounding Wanaka, so the rain is around, but thankfully we're dry here. The road's dry. It's getting a little bit blustery, some white caps on the lake. So some challenges for the athletes. But yeah, mixed team relay, it's an exciting format.
Absolutely. And we caught up with a couple of the teams earlier before the race, so we might cross to one of those interviews now. Okay, here I am with these St Kentigern specimens. It looks like triathlon is alive and well at St Kentigern's College. Sasha, just tell me, how does triathlon operate at your school?
So basically we have a school triathlon team. We do trainings Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and every second Saturday, where we get the youngest from year 7 right up to year 13 on our different abilities and everything. Yeah, so it's kind of just school based and run.
Sounds fantastic. Now, Hugh, I understand you took a bit of a spill on the bike earlier today. Always the risk in triathlon. How's the body bounced back? Are we raring to go?
Yeah, I feel good. It just hurt at the start, but I was able to race to probably just my fullest. But I fell behind a few places, so that was the best.
Okay, now I understand of the four of you, you're actually the only person that's raced in Wanaka before. Have you given your teammates any advice on the local conditions?
The weather can be quite unpredictable. Like yesterday it was quite flat and calm and sunny, and then today the winds picked up quite a bit, so just be prepared for anything.
Fantastic. Well, here they are, St Kentigern's College, ready to take on the mixed team relay, and we wish you guys all the best. So we are back here in Lake Wanaka, and the rain's just starting to set in a little bit before we head towards the under 16 and under 19 mixed team relays. Now, Chris, the mixed team relay format is a relatively new introduction to the sport. Can you just give us a little more insight into what's involved here this afternoon?
Yeah, so we've got teams of 4 athletes. So the challenging thing for our viewers this afternoon is we've actually got, within the under 16 and under 19s, we actually have 4 races within each of those divisions. So we've got an all boys category, an all girls category, we've got a mixed team relay, which is 2 boys and 2 girls, and then we've got an open category, with the main goal is we just want to see as many kids racing as possible.
It should be good, and we've actually got one more interview with St Paul's Collegiate Waikato Dio team, which we did a little bit earlier, and we're going to go and see what that team had to say. So I'm here with St Paul's Collegiate Waikato Dio team for the mixed team relay. Now, for those at home that don't know what a mixed team relay is, I'm going to go to our new under 19 national champ Ollie and ask him exactly what is a mixed team relay.
So today it is a 200 metre swim, 5k bike and a 1k run, and everyone does that once, and the relay is after you've done a full triathlon you tag the next person.
Okay, so there must be some tactics involved in this style of racing. Nikita, what are your tactics as a team today?
Let's go as hard as you can.
Simple as that. Toby, how did you organise who goes where, like the order of your team? How did that get decided?
Well, this morning we had the individual triathlon, so we kind of know how we stack up against each other, so fastest first and last and slow ones in the middle.
And Lucy, you're fresh off a podium in the individual race this morning. Are you feeling recovered? How's the body?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I ate a Subway because they were sponsoring our event, so yeah, I'm feeling good.
Always good to support the Subway sponsors. Thanks very much, guys. We wish you all the best. And here we are at the start line on the shores of beautiful Lake Wanaka as our athletes get set to get underway for the mixed team relay, and conditions look ominous at this point. We're still okay. There's a bit of wind and a little bit of rain, but so far the roads are still dry. Now, one thing I'm interested in here, Chris, is wetsuit choice. I know the water's been described as about 18 degrees and wetsuit optional. Short stages today. How do athletes make their decisions on whether to wear a wetsuit or not?
Yeah, so commonly for swimmers, you're probably seeing about a 3 to 4 seconds per 100 metres advantage to wearing a wetsuit, just in terms of your body position being a little bit better. So, over such a short swim, you might swim 10, 15 seconds faster, but then you have to obviously take that wetsuit off in T1. So you'll probably see the stronger swimmers definitely go non-wetsuit, just because they'll move through T1 nice and smoothly. And again, with this shorter format racing, every second counts. So yeah, we just want to move through T1 as smoothly as possible. But, we'll definitely see some swimmers still in the wetsuit, and that could be just from a temperature standpoint, or, maybe they're a slightly less strong swimmer, so they need that advantage in the water.
Well, I know what I'd be doing. I'd have about 3 wetsuits on if it was me. If that's the case, I'd love to save 30 seconds per 100 on my swim pace. But we can see the athletes now heading towards the start line, and there are a few white caps out there. We've been lucky. It was forecast to be a bit rougher out there, I guess, at this time of the day. But we're looking pretty good for our start line here for the under-16s, mixed team relay, and moving forward from there to the under-19. So there'll be a lot of action happening in a moment, both in the lake and out on the road, and we are set to go here with the swim start. So as Chris alluded to, we can see a bit of a mix in decisions made around the wetsuit. You can see some with and some without. You can even see a couple of students there helping each other with their zips at the back, so good to see that sportsmanship before we get underway, Chris.
Yeah, and again, from your pictures, you'll see that, we do have a mixture of boys and girls, I believe. And again, so we've got 4 different categories of racing at the same time. So, that's why we do see some different genders in there. Obviously, at the Olympic level, you would see the girls starting first, girl, boy, girl, boy. Yeah, it's an exciting format of racing, so really looking forward to this afternoon, just seeing what these kids can lay down.
Would it be fair to say is part of the future for the sport of triathlon?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a highlight to the World Tri Series throughout the year. Draws some of the biggest crowds, at each of those events. And it's just such a different dynamic of racing as, compared to individual racing. There's so many lead changes, and tactically things, can just be so variable from, within leg to leg, but also race to race. And obviously with Tokyo coming this year, we're seeing a lot of different countries taking different approaches.
Knowledge through the race around things like tactics, because that's really interesting, and it is quite a new format for the sport. So I'd love to pick your brains a little bit more on the tactical side of it a bit later on. But as I say, we start with the swim now. It's not a big swim. What's our distance here, Chris? We've got
200 metres, I believe. 200
metres, so every stroke counts, I guess, and getting off the start line early and that sort of thing. What sort of things are going through these nervous athletes' minds right now?
Yeah, I think they'll be looking out and seeing the white caps, and we do see a situation where the trot isn't quite straight onto the swimmers, so they'll just be thinking about actually where they're starting on the beach, because that trot will just push them to one side, and it'll probably just push them a little bit left as they're looking out. So, probably the smart choice, probably on the right side of the beach as they get started.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think for a lot of these athletes, part of the reason for the nerves right now will be not knowing quite how their bodies have bounced back. They've all raced already this morning. Only a matter of hours ago they've raced in the individual event, and here they are about to get their heart rates to 200 again. So a little bit of apprehension, no doubt, as to how the body's pulled up from this morning and whether they're ready to go again as we look for the start to lead off very, very shortly.
I think the other thing they're thinking about is their teammates. And again, triathlon is an individual sport, and suddenly they're thrust into a team of 4, and they don't want to let their teammates down. So that just brings a little bit more pressure, but that can really draw out a lot of performance advantage as well. And, you know, people just go extra deep. And here they go. And we'll see just as we get a good shot here of what's going on. Quite physical at the start there, isn't it?
Looks like we are involved in a contact sport for sure as they head out. You can see that red buoy being their first sighting buoy, so I believe the athletes will keep that buoy to their left, so they'll be swimming to the right as they go around it, and just look for a bit of contact as they hit that first turn buoy and the bodies come together in almost like a bottleneck effect.
You can see a couple of swimmers at the back with their heads up. You know, really they're just trying to see where the buoy is and see where the rest of the group is and just picking their own line.
Once again, this is where there's really no substitute for some open water swimming. You can do all the swimming miles you like in the swimming pool and that'll get you so far, but have a look at these bodies as they come around this buoy. There is some serious contact there, and it's every athlete for themselves, no doubt, right now.
Yeah, we've got one athlete away, just extending. I think that's a lad. So he's going to turn around the buoy and again just keep that on his right shoulder and then back into the beach to T1.
I think what we'll find with this mixed team relay format is every second does count, and of course creating separation is all part of it, because when you're going through 4 athletes who all swim, bike and run, it does inevitably become a bit of an individual time trial out on the road, so that makes it really exciting too.
I think also, Dougal, with this wind picking up and being such a strong cyclist yourself, you'll know this, like these kids have got a side wind, so there's not really a whole lot of draft advantage out there. Thankfully the rain has just stopped a little bit, so the roads are dry. We were a little bit concerned about those 180-degree corners and just what that would mean from a traction standpoint. But what do you think about this wind?
I think you've nailed it. Being a crosswind the way it is, it's probably going to present more of a handling challenge than a fitness challenge. So being able to keep on top of your gears and stay on top of your your power and your cadence with that crosswind will be challenging for sure. But it'll suit some of those confident cyclists, and when you throw on a few hairpins at either end of the course, having that ability to navigate in the wind and around those hairpins, that skill-based aspect of riding will be a big advantage for a lot of these athletes.
Right, here comes our lead swimmer. Nice couple of dolphin dives. And I was wrong, that's a very strong lady swimming there. That's a great swim.
Yeah, she's got quite a gap already, doesn't she? So this is where that team aspect comes into it. No doubt she'll be hearing the cheers of her 3 teammates as she hits the shores and heads for her bike. And what an exciting part of the race that must be when you've got your teammates and your family shouting support as you...
Yeah, it looks like it's Barradine College from Auckland who's currently in the lead there. And second.
Obviously not put off too much by the glacial-fed lakes that we have down here. These Auckland athletes are showing no mercy at this stage in the race, and yeah, they might really motivate each other as they get onto the bikes. So our first cyclist has just gone over that mount line where she's allowed to climb on her bike and start pedalling. And she certainly has a good gap in the race, but of course there's a lot of racing still to go as our second athlete, also from Barradine College, I believe.
Okay, so we are draft legal here. So we can just see if these girls currently in third, fourth, there's a gaggle of athletes coming out there. So we'll just see if they can actually form a bit of a group and close in on those first girls. So we've got a 5K bike, which is 2 laps. And they will see each other. Again, just given the nature of the course, we've got those 180-degree corners at each end. So they'll be aware of what's going on. And that, again, hopefully they can get motivated to chase those front girls down.
Interesting to see the strategies at play here too, Chris. And I'm noticing some of the girls we're seeing are using cycle shoes, so they're coming out of the swim and putting cycle shoes on. Others are using running shoes, which I presume will be all about getting through that second transition quickly. Is there a right or wrong, or is it just a case of working to your own strengths in this format?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much time saving either way. So, from a skill standpoint, and that's where MTR racing is so fun, because there is such a high skill component. If you're confident getting out of the water, getting onto your bike with your cycle shoes, you would think that would be an advantage. But then again, if you've got your running shoes on, you're going to save that time in T2. Effectively it's wreck the bike and off you go. So, and again, this is the excitement of the racing. There's so many ways to crack this nut. Barradine College still leading.
Athletes continuing to come out of the swim and climb on their bikes, and we're getting a very busy road very quickly here as the cyclists all start to emerge, I guess, onto the bike course. And it is Barradine College leading at this stage.
Yeah, Barradine's still first and second, and then we've got Shauna Gray. She's from Cambridge. We'll just find out what team she's on. She's really pushing that chase pack. There's about 4 girls. They're strung out, but they'll be working together. I think Diggle, this Barradine lady is extending. She's cycling very well. She's just about to turn at the far end and come into T2.
Yeah, purely speculative at this. Athletes are Emma Blackmore and Emily Shaw, so just trying to get confirmation on which athlete we're looking at in the lead here. But gosh, she's not waiting around to watch the race unfold, is she? She's making it happen off the front. And it looks like we have some runners on course. Helmet goes on, of course, before the bike can be unracked, so there are penalties that apply if athletes don't do things in the order they need to. So the wetsuits come off, helmet goes on, bike is unracked, and you'll see with this athlete running towards the mount line that they can't actually climb on their bike until they've gone past that mount line. So
I think what we're seeing there, Dougal, is the under-19 race. Okay, so the under-19s are away, and we've got Caleb Ney from Gisborne. He's away first onto the bike. A little bit of congestion out there, so the athletes have got to keep their wits about them. They're going to be sharing that course with a lot of their fellow athletes.
we can just see with shots of the bike course right now, a few drops on the camera. The roads are still dry. There's rain threatening, but it hasn't really started to fall properly yet. So pretty good conditions, still a bit of breeze, but so far so good as far as the weather down in beautiful Lake Wanaka goes. and there are a lot of cyclists on the course right now, which makes it pretty unpredictable but also very exciting from that point of view. We've got 4 members in each team. We've got the under 16s and the under 19s now both underway, and so it's a case now of sitting back and enjoying the show and seeing these athletes at work. Caleb Ney just came past. He's going to break some speed limits along the street, I think, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Caleb had a strong race this morning. Led out of the water, was in the lead group on the bike, and then just was talking to him after, and he just couldn't breathe. So I don't know if there's some allergies going around just with the different dust and pollen sort of down here in Wanaka as opposed to Gisborne. But again, we'll see how he bounces back, and this can be a good race to get his confidence back and finish a good one for the weekend.
Now, Chris, I did introduce you earlier as the Regional Youth Academy leader. Now, can you just tell us, what does that job title actually involve? What do you do?
I get asked that a lot, actually. No, so TriNZ's youth development program is split into 5 regions across New Zealand. So we've got Auckland region, we've got the Central North Island, which encompasses Waikato, Tauranga and the Bay of Plenty, out to Gisborne, Taupo. We've got the Manawatu region, which is led by Tamara Reid. So that's effectively south of Taupo, Wanganui, and Wellington. And in the South Island we have 2 academies. We've got this Canterbury Triathlon Academy, who's coached by Axel Reiser, and then Southland with Jensen Rogers. So these guys' remit is to provide learning opportunities for any youth who's interested in triathlon, and we do that through a camp structure. So each region has 3 or 4 camps during the year to try and get all these athletes together. And additional to that, a lot of the academies actually run weekly sessions. And again, it's all about education, it's skills building, and it's providing a social outlet for these athletes. Because what we see typically in the school structure is, we might have 3 or 4 athletes per school, which a lot of the time isn't enough to kind of keep interest and, keep rugby and netball and all those other sports at bay. So yeah, we're just trying to build the network and build skills and try and keep these kids encouraged to participate in this great sport. And again, with the addition of MTR as another Olympic sport, there's just more opportunities.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of pretty happy-looking parents out there supporting their kids, and the kids are probably grimacing more than they are smiling, but I'd like to think they're enjoying participating in this great sport right now in the MTR, or the mixed team relay. What part does the MTR play, do you think, from a developmental point of view, Chris?
Yeah, well, again, just given the nature of the event with multiple legs and then multiple athletes, there's just a higher skill factor. You've got to be a fast, competent swimmer. You've got to be fast through T1 so you can make the group. The bike courses are typically short and technical, so a lot of corners, some good bunch opportunities. So you need to be a skillful rider. And then running, you just need to be uber fast. And again, as a country, we're excelling in this format, and we've got a very young team. A lot of the events this year throughout the WTS series, all of our athletes were under 23. So there's definitely an avenue for younger athletes to excel at this distance. Rather than having to, at the moment, the Olympic distance is a 10-kilometre run. Asking a 19-year-old to run a good 10K is quite a fast stretch. So that's where MTR can play in. Just more opportunities.
I like it. I like that skill-based acquisition too. That comes part and parcel with such short stages and the importance transition plays. I also like the accountability of being part of a team and offering your best performance on the day. And I've found in my racing and adventure races and things in the past, that in the right team environment, it really can bring the best out of each individual. So I would like to think that these teams today are really helping foster each other's best effort, and at the end of the day, that's all you can ask from yourself, isn't it, Chris? Just to do your best with what you've got on the day and take that team approach, offer your best performance, and hope the other three can do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the time at the in the finish shoot, like in the team tag area, once you've tagged off, it's not uncommon just to see athletes spread all over the ground, just because you do give that extra 2, 3, 4%, because you're out there for your team. So we're a bunch of individuals, just doing the best for each other. It's great.
Totally. I've found too in my time in the sport that when you win something, you have your team, but you also have a bunch of hanger-oners, and I tell people you can really define who your tight team is by those who are still by your side when you don't perform to your expectations or you quote-unquote lose on the day, and not everyone can win on the day, so it's a case of having the right people around you that support and foster your development in the sport, because you're not going to win them all. And in fact, in my time as a teenager, I didn't win anything, so these formative years are so important, and really it's just about having that positive experience and offering the best you can on the day, which we're seeing a lot of right now.
Yeah, and particularly in triathlon, it is an endurance sport, and it is just you out there. So you kind of feel like you're just in the light all the time. So to have that team around you and just fostering that growth and building yourself up, it's great. We've actually got the 2 lead runners coming in here, Dougal. So Barradine College is still in the lead. And then we have Shauna Gray, who's maybe 20 seconds back. So she's had a great ride and run and closed that gap considerably. So, we will see the tag happen pretty soon and hopefully see some spectacular dives into this second leg.
Look at that effort. It's pretty obvious that our Barradine College athlete has offered everything to that swim, bike, run. She'll no doubt go and collapse on the grass somewhere as their second athlete heads off into the water to start the second stage with the swim.
Yeah, and looked like she tagged to another girl there, so I think we've got an all-girls team leading that race, which is fantastic. And also notable that that second athlete was wearing a wetsuit, so we'll see what happens in the swim with that.
Just on the topic of tactics, Chris, because this sport is very new and I'm sure everyone's learning as they go, but tactically, what goes into deciding things like what order your teammates go out in and how you approach the race, not just individually but as a foursome? Like, how do you make those decisions in a MTR format?
That's $1 million question, Dougal. And yeah, we are learning as we go. So yeah, typically your lead female, you're going to want someone who's a competent swimmer. Ideally that first athlete has the opportunity to race in the biggest group just before it all splinters up. So typically you want a strong female who's going to swim well and bike in the group, and then hopefully get off and run with the leaders, or at least stay in touch for that second leg. So that second leg, which is the male, that can be really variable. Either you're in the group or you've got a little deficit. So, typically you want a very strong swimmer in that second leg who can then ride well because, the group should be a little bit smaller by then. Typically all these guys need to run well. And then you're heading off to that third female, which probably needs to be your best all-rounder. The swim's going to be considerably smaller group. And in WTS events, we're seeing, either that person, that third female, being solo to, maybe 2 or 3 other athletes that they're racing against. So out of the swim, they're onto the bike, a lot of solo effort, so very strong time trial rider. And then once again, that run leg just needs to be expressed to hand off to that last male. And the last male needs to be tactically very aware, a good all-rounder. Again, you're probably looking at racing with 2, maybe 3 athletes at most. You're really trying to sort out that podium position, and ideally they're your quickest runner, especially over that last 500 metres. So yeah, it's as you say, it's an evolving sport, and countries are going about it in different ways, and we're seeing different technology introduced, aero helmets, some different cleat footwear choices. So, that's really sort of spurred on a big growth area in the sport.
It's all fascinating stuff, and I think, as you say, we're learning as we go, and no doubt these guys are no different. I think it'll be interesting to be a fly on the wall for some of the debriefs after the race as to what went well and what didn't, but I guess that's part of the process of learning. Now, inevitably, in an event like this, we do focus a lot of our attention on those that are winning the race, of course, and we did that this morning, and we're doing it more or less now. But I just reflect on my brief stint in triathlon as a teenager, and as I say, I was well off the pace, and if I'd stopped the sport then and there, I guess it would have been sad. I would never have gone on to win races like Challenge Wanaka. So, Chris, there will be athletes here today that have discouraging performances, I guess. What would your advice be to some of the athletes out there who don't win or don't feel that tangible success that comes with being at the pointy end of the race?
Yeah, I think it's just really important to focus on the positives. You can't have a complete negative race. So there's always something that goes well. So as a coach, you're always trying to pull that out. Because that should form the basis of a good feedback loop, really. What are you doing well, and then what are you going to do to, maybe reduce some of those limitations for your next race? And again, that's where that sort of social support, being in a team, whether it's school or within your region, can really help. You just have a good debrief with your mates over a drink, and you just sort of talk through your day. And oftentimes, those other people will pull out the positives for you, because, as an athlete, it is really, really easy just to focus on the things that went bad.
Yeah, I think often it comes back to your why, and that's becoming a bit of a cliche, but it is so true, is reflecting on why you're out there. Is it to win? Is it to have that gold medal? Is it for the success and the fame that comes with it? Or is there something deeper than that underlying your participation in this sport? And for me, initially, it was very much that connection to the outdoors and being out in the elements and testing myself, I guess, against the elements first and foremost, and of course against the competitors around me. But I think that was probably a big part of the reason I was able to sustain my enjoyment and participation in the sport, even though I wasn't winning any races, and in fact I was more or less losing them. It was still achieving that primary goal that I was looking to achieve, which was to connect with nature, test my body and mind in a competitive environment. And so I guess what's led to a 15-year involvement in triathlon and multisport, thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the here and now. It's like we want to be good right now, today. But there's so many different entry points into triathlon or multisport, and that's why it's such a great sport globally, in terms of age group participation, but also professionally. And I was talking to Hannah Wells yesterday. She hadn't even done a triathlon by the time she was 23, and now I think, you would say she's had a pretty successful couple of years on the long course circuit. So, it's not all over after today. If I reflect back on Andrea Hewitt, I think she was 20, 21 when she came to the sport from surf lifesaving, and she's a 3-time Olympian going for number 4. And we'll see her racing in Abu Dhabi in a few weeks' time. And you would say that, she's had a great career. She hadn't done a single triathlon, in her teens. So, it's just that long game, and just keep surrounding yourself with positive people and keep doing things well, and you're going to get there.
So some pretty cool shots right now of our athletes on the bike course, and by this stage in the game, Chris, athletes are going to be fairly separated. They'll be fairly aware, I would assume, of where their team currently sits in the standings, but a lot of athletes now really under their own steam. There's very few bunches that have remained formed and are still functioning effectively together. So this is a completely different format to a lot of the individual racing we saw earlier today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and again, it's just so different race to race. Everyone's pretty spread at the moment. but in the next leg, it could all come together. And even at the top level, there's so many changes that happen throughout the event, and that's why it's so exciting.
Some good shots of a transition happening here. Wetsuit comes off, helmet goes on, and that bike's out. So that was a matter of probably 5 seconds to go from a wetsuit swimmer to a race suit cyclist. Pretty impressive. He's obviously practiced that before. As he goes over the mount line, flying mount, easy as that. He's gone for the bike shoes. So whether he actually straps into them or not remains to be seen, but he's got cycling shoes on his pedals, either as a platform or to strap into. Unfortunately, Chris.
Yeah, we've got this, that young lad who was just on screen, just had a little tumble after the mountain line, and he's just working on his bike. But again, he's going to fix it. And the only reason why is because he's got a tag to his next team member. He'll be feeling pretty flustered and a little bit deflated at the moment, but when he gets going again, he's going to give it his all to make up that time.
Another good shot of a perfectly executed bike mount after the mount line. And look at that cadence. So that's right now. A lot of...
A bit like it's the sun's come back out, and it's warmed up a little bit too, Dougal. So just don't look down the lake.
Shots of Barradine under 16 gold team here on the camera at the moment. They've obviously got a pretty strong triathlon program going at Barradine College because they've featured prominently across all race formats today. So no doubt some very highly valued coaches and parents and support staff involved in fostering the sport up there, and it's wonderful to see them travel the length of the country to come and perform here at Lake Wanaka.
And just to come in there, Dougal, that persistence has finally paid off for that young St Kentigern College team. He has got away and he's re-entered the racing, so we'll look for him to come past, and I'm sure he'll be flat out trying to gauge, make up that time.
Nothing like a bit of frustration and anger in the belly to create a little bit more drive, a little bit more want, so he'll be looking for redemption as he gets his cadence back on his bike and starts to build up momentum again. More shots here out on the bike course. We're really fortunate with the event today. These shots are from Ardmore Street, which is the main street here in Wanaka Township that runs between, the central business area and the lakefront itself. So completely closed off to public traffic, and these cyclists have the entire road to themselves. So I guess if there was ever an opportunity to feel like a professional athlete, it would be now with this incredible infrastructure that's in place, thanks to the Challenge Wanaka team, and I'm sure these athletes are feeling pretty special out there on a fully closed road right in the heart of Wanaka Township.
Just hitting up for the run, off the 1K run.
So some more runners exiting transition area 2. Looking to find their... I think they've got all of about 1.5 kilometres to find their run legs before they'll be finished. No sooner have they started. Another Barradine College athlete too. Here's one of our male athletes, making it look easy. Nice and tall, good turnover, striding out. I'm always quite jealous when I watch these young guys run, Chris. I think years of sitting on a time trial bike's tightened my hips up. I don't think my heel gets to my butt quite like that these days. Lovely shot of our athlete here running in. Just trying to find a number or a name. Some of our viewers will be cursing me for not knowing, but it is quite tricky to see. So all I can tell you is his run technique looks beautiful.
Yeah, this runner's still looking great, Dougal, isn't he? Nice and upright.
How do they approach it from a pacing point of view, Chris, with such short stages? Is it just a case of going as hard as...
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, you just want to empty that tank. Obviously, you can't do that straight off the bike. There's got to be a sort of 200-300 metre period where you find your legs. But these guys hopefully are running this sort of distance, in their school programs, athletics, sports days, etc., etc. So, they would have a good gauge of where that sort of top end limit is, and it really is just finding that and just holding it.
Well, he's running in pretty swiftly here. This might be our third athlete, or third round, I guess, of the MTR. Of course, there's 4 athlete team. So we're sort of well past that midpoint in the race where things are starting to get pretty interesting, and some of these teams will really start to feel the heat a bit now because the courses, they're running out of course, I guess, to stake their claim for those top positions. So the pressure starts to mount. I'm not sure, Chris, that I'd want to be the last athlete. There must be a bit of pressure running on the shoulders of those that go last.
Yeah, there is, but they get the finishing tape. Yep. So there is a little bit of kudos to that anchor leg. Again, most of the time it's your strongest athlete and strongest runner. So, they're pretty confident that they're going to execute a good day. Particularly when they get onto the run, that they're going to move through and just be as effective as they can.
And stationed at the moment at the midpoint out on the cycle course, and we're watching a lot of the runners as they start the run, exiting transition area. And I can tell you there's wonderful support out on course today. There's a lot of parents, a lot of staff from various schools represented from around the country. And so the atmosphere is pretty exciting, and I'm sure these athletes are really feeding off a lot of that crowd support.
And this is where MTR is, it's a great spectator sport. Again, just given the dynamics of the day, and it's a short, fast format. Particularly today with our bike course, we get to see the athletes 4 times throughout their bike, and obviously they run away and then come back. So, you get to see your athletes a lot, and they definitely feed off that cheering. This
is a great shot here of the athletes standing in the holding pen, waiting nervously for their teammates to arrive. No sooner will they have done the tag, they'll be sprinting off into the lake and dolphin diving and freestyling their way towards that first turn buoy. So you can just feel it, can't you? There's a bit of anxious anticipation going on here at the moment as we see a few athletes being tagged and changing that timing band across. So Chris, that's obviously part of the compulsory changeover process with that timing chip.
Yeah, at this level, they do change that timing chip. As they move up into some elite racing, each athlete gets their own timing chip, so it is like a hand tag. You know, and there are some pretty strict rules around where the tag area is, so that's probably made it a little bit easier here today with the actual timing chip having to be changed. You know, there's a good area set aside, and it's a pretty definitive tag. Say last year on the WTS circuit, I was lucky enough to be with the New Zealand team in Edmonton, and it was a pretty closely contested race, and we're on our final athlete, and the Australian team actually tagged outside the tag box, so we knew that they had a time penalty, and their athlete Matt Hauser, he was pretty fired up about it on the bike, so he really buried himself, and we had Hayden Wild, the Falcon, on our last leg, and they came into transition pretty close. You know, Matt knew that he had to serve that time penalty, which effectively lost them, you know, going for first, and it actually put them down into third place.
I love it. The Kiwis and the Aussies with the Kiwis coming out on top.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was our first WTS MTR win at Edmonton. So that was a great result, obviously, and you know, even without the time penalty, we would have got that one. So it was a good, complete result for the team. It was fantastic.
And I'm sure a lot of these athletes out on course right now were following that event, Chris, and that's one of the wonderful dynamics I get right now, and especially so, as you alluded to earlier, with this MTR format and the successes we are seeing at the elite end in New Zealand with Tri NZ. These kids, they've...
Yeah, exactly, and you know, we've got the advent of Super League Triathlon, you know, which is, you know, that multi-format, short, fast racing, you know, and it's exciting. You know, there's different winners every time, so you know, we are definitely seeing shorter, sharper, faster racing. It just holds interest a lot more, and it's that different challenge than, you know, being out there for an hour 45, 2 hours, you know, which is a Olympic distance race. You know, they're going full gas for 20 minutes, then they get a 10-minute rest, and then they've got to go again. You know, and I think we'll see the sport change over the next years. Change at the Olympics for Paris. So we'll see what develops there.
Well, sport will always evolve, won't it, Chris? And the sport of triathlon was only first part of the Olympic Games in 2000, so 20 years as far as sport is concerned is a very short lifespan, and it is a young sport, but man, it's growing fast, and in New Zealand we've seen huge growth in the sport, so it's come a long way in 20 years, so it's anyone's guess how big it will grow over the next 20 years. But as a father of two, and you're the same, Chris, I'll have no hesitation if my children decide to have a dabble in triathlon. I think it's a wonderful sport for young people to get involved in, and as I say, if our kids choose to do it, I won't be standing in their way.
Yeah, it sets up some great life skills. You know, a lot of these kids have got to be independent and self-driven, you know, so they've got to, hopefully anyway, they've got to knock on mum and dad's door to get them to swim training, and you know, they've got to have their kit ready. You know, there's a lot of organisation around it, so you know, from a person development standpoint, you know, of course we're going to say this, it's better than triathlon to grow those skills, and you know, it's no secret that, you know, a lot of triathletes are successful in other areas of their lives. You know, they go hand in hand.
Totally, and I picked a bit up on that when I was doing some of those pre-race interviews actually. Not all the students were all that comfortable in front of a camera, but in the case of swim, bike, run and triathlon, you need to learn all those other skills and develop in all those other ways as well. And being comfortable speaking in public, I guess, is one of those things that are part and parcel, not just with triathlon, but set you up well in other avenues of life, of course, too.
Yeah, I think that's why we're so thankful that, you know, we're here bringing this coverage out to all the spectators at home, because it does just provide that additional level of exposure for these athletes and what they're doing, because a lot of the time they go relatively unsung, you know, not marginalised, but, you know, there's very little awareness about what's going on, and, you know, that's part of my remit. And the role that I'm in is, you know, just really getting out there the fact that we've got so many great kids involved in the sport, and how we can actually grow that.
That's absolutely right. You can see some of the signage on the coverage right now, and there's some pretty cool companies involved in the sport too, and I think Suzuki and ASICS really deserve a mention right now because, you know, they're a big part of how these events take place and the opportunities that are afforded to these young people to experience the sport in a very competitive and professional environment, although, as we've said before, it really comes back to fun and enjoyment and risk-taking and all those qualities that set these young people up for life. But as I say, Suzuki and ASICS and some of these other companies have done a wonderful job in fostering the sport at this level. You can see in this coverage, even our motorcyclist is having trouble keeping up with some of the cyclists out on those hairpins. So some amazing skills on display there from these incredible athletes.
Yeah, see the volunteers just raising their hands.
I'm so impressed with these athletes at the moment. You know, just Ben Raven from Taupo Nuetia just rode past. Didn't have the best race this morning. Said he felt really flat, just got it a bit wrong. But then he's out here and he's really giving it everything. You know, he's low on his bike. His head's rocking a little bit from side to side just because he's going so hard. But he's out here. You know, maybe looking for some positivity for the weekend. See the swimmer coming in with helmet goes on. Nice job.
Down at Florida College. Right in the mix of it.
She could be, after swimming in Lake Wanaka, she might be finding it a bit tricky to have the dexterity to do her helmet up, but off she goes. She's away.
And, you know, we just get that little bit of extra pressure, you know, that little fumble, and, you know, the excitement just keeps building. But again, that comes down to practice, you know, repetition under pressure, and, you know, finding a group to be able to do that in, you know, rather than doing it individual all the time. You know, I think a lot of the time in triathlon we focus on the engine rather than the skills, you know, and you really need some good guidance and the push from the group to really hone those race skills.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris, and that mental growth, I guess, that offers too, you know, as you say, thinking good, which, you know, if you're going in business world or even that's going to really arm you with some good tools. just apologise to our viewers if we've cut out a few times. We are looking to remedy that issue. In the meantime, the race continues, and in a little while we expect some of our lead teams to cross the line, and I'll be making an effort to get to the finish line and getting some interviews with our successful teams. But Chris, I'm curious, for those watching the sport right now and having an inkling they might want to get involved, parents and also young people, what are some of the first steps, I guess, if you've never done triathlon before, you're watching it now, you're starting to get itchy feet and think about doing a triathlon, what would you recommend as a few first steps to someone wanting to get into triathlon?
Yeah, your first point of call will be your... So, you know, I think across New Zealand we have over 50 clubs. Definitely that would be my first protocol is internet, find your local club and sort of get in touch with them. And, you know, ideally they would have a youth development program or at least be able to put you in touch with someone who can help in that space. Like Triathlon Kiwi, we're just in the process of updating all our youth development information on there, but you'll be able to find all the regional youth academy contact details. You know, so whether you're in Ireland, Manawatu or Wellington area, Canterbury, or even north of Canterbury, or Southland, you know, we have some people in place to answer those questions and see if we can get some opportunities to you. And then obviously the last protocol would be me. Really, and again, my contact details are on the website, so you know, feel free to reach out if there's any questions that we can ask specifically. But definitely, your tri club would be the first protocol, Dougal.
Good to know.
He's on us at the moment.
Nice work, another athlete just coming out of T2, running well. I believe that's the third athlete for a team. We do actually have, by my estimation, a final athlete from an under-19 boys team out on course. I will just confirm that and double check and come back, but we do think that we've got the first finisher close.
And I'm just on my way, Chris, to the finish line as we anticipate some of our first finishers to come through. So I'm going to go link up with my cameraman at the finish line, Chris, and we'll come to you live shortly with some interviews with our first teams across the line.
Nice work with, on screen at the moment. We've got young Kaylin Gray from Cambridge. She's running well. She had a great race this morning. I think she won the intermediate girls title. Right, Dougal, and just to confirm that was, we've just had the leader effectively of the third leg come in. So Ivan Abel from Taupo Nui Atia, I'm pretty sure is our first fourth leg swimmer into the water.
I just get too excited, Chris. I'm sorry. I've gone ahead of myself. You're right. And we've got our fourth swimmer heading off to that first turn buoy now. So I'm getting ahead of myself. MTR, look what it does to you. I'm too excited. I'm coming back.
Why don't you see if you can grab someone down there, Dougal, and just have a chat through their race? Looks exciting down your way.
Tell you what, this is where the atmosphere is. That's probably quite a good idea. I'll see what I can do.
As we see another team just change baton there effectively. Again, their swimmer going with the wetsuit. Weather conditions are holding on for us, which we're very thankful for. That wind looks like it's just changed a little bit, so the chop direction has changed. Those swimmers are now pretty much swimming straight into the chop to that first buoy, and then as they turn that first buoy, the chop is going to be on their left shoulder. Baton range just coming up here. We've got some great preparation there. Athletes down on one knee. They've thought about this. I would say they've probably practiced this aspect of their preparation with their school coaches or with their parents. College athlete. And what a great run finish from Sam Parry from the Manawatu Tri Academy. Right, and Dougal, we're coming over to you. Looks like you've got an athlete ready to race.
I've got Mackay Watson here from Mount Aspiring College. He's a jump in the lake. What's going through your mind, Mackay?
Freaking cold. Yeah, but finishing up. Be good.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing you out there, mate. Good luck.
Thank you.
Loads.
I'd just like to thank the motorbike cameraman here. We're getting some great coverage of the cycle league today. And just a little heads up, we've got Ivan Abel from Taupo Nuiatia. He is on the bike. He is the leading under-19 all-boys team. So he's the first leg 4 athlete out. Nice job. Just this athlete getting her feet out of her bike shoes, ready for the dismount. And we've got another interview with Dougal.
I'm here with Hannah Prosser from Wanaka, who actually finished third in the under-16 girls race earlier this morning, and she has just crossed the line in the MTR. How was it out there this afternoon?
Yeah, it was really fun. I like doing all the short, fast stuff. It's a bit choppy in the water, but no, it was good.
How's your team going? Do you know how you're sort of stacking up at this stage?
No, I'm not too sure. But no, everyone's done really well, so yeah.
Short and fast out there this afternoon. How's the body after having already raced this morning?
Yeah, it was a bit tough, but no, I really enjoyed it. It's good.
It's good to see the locals performing well. Mount Aspiring College. Last question, is there a home court advantage performing in the lake that you know, on the roads that you know? Do you feel like you get an advantage from being from Wanaka?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely been an advantage being able to swim out in the lake quite often, so yeah, that's been good.
Awesome. All right, we'll leave you to get back to cheering your teammates on, and all the best.
Thank you.
Well, just getting back to the coverage here, we have Reese Rush just coming out of T1. And another Barradine athlete. Man, Barradine here with a great team. I know their coach Tony O'Hagan's been doing a lot of work up in Auckland. It's great to see that they've brought such a big contingent down to race here. Yeah, and just we're back onto the bike here, and actually just that athlete just off the front is Quade McLaughlin, who won the under-16 race. Looks like he's having another strong outing for his team. Nice work. And Dougal, looks like we're back to you on the waterfront.
Yeah, I've got a special treat here. We've got Campbell Wright from Wanaka, who was the flag bearer at the recent Winter Youth Olympic Games. He picked up a 4th and a 6th in the biathlon over there. And here he is in his tri-suit. Campbell, are you a part-time triathlete? What's going on here?
Yeah, I would say I'm a part-time triathlete. Just kind of do it because one of my mates does. So I figured may as well just give it a crack. But nah, it's good.
Any idea how your team's faring out there at the moment?
The front, but nah, it's a bit of fun.
Something I really love about this sport is that participation aspect, eh? And you know, you've just come back from a big campaign at the Winter Olympics doing biathlon, which is effectively cross-country skiing and shooting, and yet here you are showing up in a team. You're not competitive in that you're not probably going to win the race, but what's drawn you to today's event? Why are you here?
Oh, well, it was in Wanaka, so I was like, oh, it's pretty. So I was like, oh, may as well give it a crack.
And what do you think your strength's going to be, swim, bike or run?
Oh, probably the run, yeah.
Good to have your strength at the end. All the best, mate.
Yeah, cheers, thank you.
Thanks for that, Dougal. Yeah, great to see that cross-sport pollination effectively. Yeah, I'm sure he has got a large engine, so it would be great to see what he can do on the run.
Well, I can confirm now he is in the lake, so literally seconds after I finished interviewing him, poor old Campbell, his teammate showed up, threw his ankle timer on him and sent him off into the lake. So he is swimming now towards that first buoy, and what a wonderful talent he is, crossing so many different sports, and you know, some of them he's out there to perform on the world stage, and today by all accounts it's just about participation, being around his mates and just enjoying the sport of triathlon.
I can certainly say from my vantage point here, just where we've got our monitor, it seems that the intensity is really ramped up in this last league. I know we've got a lot of the under-19 teams. The boys are on the course, and there's some speed out there. And we've actually got Ivan Abel just taking his feet out of his shoes, just coming in to dismount, and he'll be away on the run pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I was just in that transition area where teammates swap over, and I'll tell you what, the intensity is growing. The atmosphere is really building, and I think what we're starting to find is a bit of clarity around who's positioned where in the race as we head into those last teammates that go and try and anchor the result for their team.
Yeah, exactly. And there we go. We see Ivan just running through transition. He's going to come running past me pretty soon. Ivan had a great race this morning. He was second in the under-19 individual race. he's looking good. He's running tall. He's always been very light of foot, Ivan. His bike skills are incredible. I've never seen anyone go around a corner like Ivan. He gets so low and he's just so fluid in those corners. Like he will open up 2, 3, 4 meters on a group every single time. And again, it's that skill component that sets him up so well. And there we go, we've got a shot of Ivan still there. We've just had Quade McLaughlin run past the commentary position as well. And I'm not sure they'll be an under-16 team, Dougal, so I think we might have the 2 leading teams out there, under-19, under-16.
Yeah, we've literally got people on all 3, the swim course, the bike course and the run course right now, so athletes everywhere. And I can confirm, having just been in that, what I'm calling the holding pen at the start of the swim, where the runners come in and transfer, that there's some real camaraderie that's very tangible in there. Some of the teams were quite proudly telling me how well they were placed in the race, and other teams were just as happily telling me that they're not featuring anywhere near the front of the race, but actually having a really good time in the process. So camaraderie is definitely a word I'd use to describe that holding pen area at the moment. But as you said earlier, Chris, the suspense is starting to build, and I think as we near the end of the race, there is a bit of intensity, I guess, around that anticipation on what's going to happen on that finish line.
Yeah, just on this final leg, I see a lot of grimacing on the bike as they come past us, but then they go out on the run and suddenly they're smiling again. I think they can sort of start to taste that finish line. You know, they sort of feel, they visualize running through that chute, and you know, it's going to be some great viewing as their team meets them, hopefully to run down the carpet together, and they get to enjoy that moment as a team, because you know, it's those 4 people combined. That's a great way to finish.
Yeah, there's a saying in triathlon, swim and bike for show and run for dough, and it looks like some of these runners are really starting to feel the heat, I guess, as they approach that final run, and those results start to become a little more clear. There's a lot to run for still, and we might have our first runner coming in shortly.
Yeah, we've got Ivan just coming onto the gravel path for the last time. He is the D athlete, so he is their last athlete. And Dougal's going to make his way down to the finish chute, and we will grab an interview with that team, you know, for your viewing pleasure. Yeah, and we're back on camera with Ivan. Great shot. Nice work, just getting the congratulations from his teammates there. They're happy with the day's work. A wry smile from Ivan. Almost looks like he didn't have to work on that one, so maybe we'll be feeding back that he could have gone a little bit deeper. And then we've got Quade McLaughlin coming in again. He's our under-16 champion from this morning. Still looking smooth, running fast. A great day for Quade all around.
Another great team effort. The tactics came together, they put their team members in the right positions. And another one, I think we might have probably within 20 seconds of each other.
Let's go, boy, let's keep it up.
Nice work, and I I think Dougal has made his way down to the lakefront, and I think he has the leading team with him right now.
Yeah, here we are with Team Chungfog, I believe. What does Chungfog mean?
I have no idea. You have to.
Oh, it's a brand. It's anti-fog, and we're all sponsored by the best anti-fog on the market.
Excellent. Well, that sounds good to me. Now, Ivan, you've just anchored the team for victory. Was it a bit of pressure out there going last in this team?
Not really. This is my race.
You don't even look like you've raced. Are you feeling all right? You're looking fresh.
It's quite sore on the legs, the bike, but yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. I was wondering if you were human for a moment there. Who went first in this team? Yeah, so I'm really interested to know, going first, what was the tactics out there when you were going off the start?
Oh, just smash it from the front. It was a little bit weird going with all the girls, but, you know, just smash it from the front.
Did I see a female athlete leading out of the water?
You did not.
Oh, that was you. Okay, good to know. Now, what does this victory mean? It's a mixed team relay, of course, and it's a team event. What does it feel like to be the fastest under-19 boys team in New Zealand?
It's pretty scucks. Feels good.
Scucks. How does it feel for you, mate?
Oh, pretty gangster. Yeah.
I hope those at home are taking notes. This is how we talk in this day and age. Now, you all raced individually this morning. What were the legs like going out there, a couple of hours later? Did you feel like you'd recovered?
They felt all right. They were sore, but just go through it kind of thing.
Excellent. Well, lots of people finishing now. I'm sure you'll want to go and congratulate some of your competitors. So well done today, and rest up, recover well, and we'll see you back here hopefully next year. Well done, guys.
Thanks, Dougal. And just as we come on camera there with Ollie Larkin, he's anchoring the St Paul's Collegiate, sorry. I'll get shot for that one. Still looking smooth. He had a great race this morning. Chatted to him afterwards, and he was really happy with just how smooth they folded. She worked with Ivan, who was just on camera there on the bike, and had a smooth run. So he's going well, the young man. Oh, great finish there. And that's what this MTR format's all about. You know, you've done it for your team. You get to cross the finish line as a team. High fives all around from the team. I think that's a team from Cambridge as well, so the Central North Island region. Looking strong, and we're getting pretty thin out on the bike course at the moment, just as we start to get our last athletes through this bike and onto the run. So these guys are doing a pretty honest ride here. You know, there's no one to really gauge off. They're in the wind, they're on their own, and it's just about their race, racing their race. Yeah, and just as I can see Dougal starting to get ready with another team there, I think this may be the under-16 winner. Dougal, maybe you could get a little bit more information from the team.
Well, I'm here with the under-16 non-championship team, and I really wanted to talk to these guys about what that means. You're from more than how many schools?
So we're from 4 schools. We each go to a different school.
4 different schools making up a team of 4. How did you find each other?
Through the CTA, they connected us all up to race together today. So yeah, that's pretty good.
And did you guys know each other before today's race?
Yeah, we train with each other.
Okay, cool. Well, would you race together as a team again?
Yeah, definitely. It was an awesome team.
We did pretty well, so I think we need to find a way for you all to go to the same school, and that way you guys can take out the championship next year. Well done, guys.
Bringing them home. Well done. Becoming a little bit tired and stuff. Sticky up this morning.
Nice work, Dougal. And yeah, Quade just alluded there to the CTA, so that's the Canterbury Triathlon Academy. So that's one of our regional partners across New Zealand. So Axel Reiser's doing a great job there with the help of a couple of other coaches, and the Canterbury Triathlon Club are very supportive of that program as well. And Axel's very, very active in that community, and I get the pleasure of working with Axel and delivering a couple of Australian opportunities as well to go over and race the Aussies, just to further the skills of those athletes who are at that level. So great to see those four sort of combine as a CTA team rather than a school team.
Yeah, and we've just seen the Barradine under 16 red team finish, so I might try and grab an interview shortly with these four girls. They were impressive all day, weren't they, Chris?
Yeah, Barradine have featured strongly right throughout the whole day at the individual racing, but obviously racing as the girls teams here, it's been great to see. Maybe you could ask them, Dougal, how many of them from Barradine actually came down, because I've just seen their uniform all over the place.
I'll do just that. Stand by.
Another athlete finishing there, and I'm just looking on the bike course, and I think there are I think we're down to maybe the last rider coming in off this bike course pretty soon. So then they'll obviously go on to the run, and we're almost drawing to a close here. And the timing's been perfect. This weather stayed away, and we're going to get through with dry roads, which is always a good finish. And then Dougal, I'm going to come to you. It looks like you've got Barradine ready to go.
I got Barradine College here, which is very exciting for me because you featured prominently out there all day, and you've crossed the line, under 16 girls mixed team relay champions. What does that feel like to you to have that title?
It feels really good, yeah. Hard work.
I bet it was. It looked, and I was just watching. But Barradine College, how many of you have come all the way down to Lake Wanaka for the race today?
We have 9 here today, yeah.
That's outstanding. What is it about Barradine College that makes it so good for triathlon?
We're all really inclusive, and we all great friends. We've got 29 people in the Tri Club this year, so looking really good for the season. We're all excited.
You crossed the finish line and you went into a bit of a group hug. We could really sense that camaraderie that you've got as a team. Do you have a preference? You raced individually this morning, you've now raced MTR or mixed relay this afternoon. Is there a format that you find better?
What do you mean?
Do you prefer to race as an individual, or do you like this team aspect of racing?
I like the team. It's a lot more fun, and it's just nice being with everyone else.
Well, it's been fantastic for us to watch you, and congratulations again. Under 16 girls national champ. Well deserved. You raced so courageously all day, and we'll let you go and recover now and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dougal. 29 athletes in a college all doing triathlon. That's great. And I can confirm that our last bike is off the course. So we're coming pretty close to wrapping this up with the last runner out and away, and should be back with Dougal relatively soon.
Yeah, pretty cool scenes here, Chris. I've just watched the other Barradine College team finishing, and the first thing the red team that I just interviewed did was go up and hug them and congratulate them as teammates, I guess, which is really cool to see given they were actually in opposing team today. So that camaraderie is very unique, I think, in the sport of triathlon, and it's wonderful to see that sort of sportsmanship.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. What's the sort of the vibe of the finish line down there, Dougal? Is everyone just content with what they've done, or are athletes sort of just doubled over in pain, or?
I think adrenaline's primarily at play right now, so there's a lot of relieved faces, flushed faces. These students have pushed themselves really hard. I shouldn't call them students, actually. I should be calling them athletes, because it's exactly what they've just demonstrated. Is they're incredible athletes, and I think, as you said earlier, being part of this team format really brings the best out of each individual, and you can just sense that they've gone above and beyond to perform for their team. So there is exhaustion on the faces, but I'm also seeing a lot of proud parents, and it seems that whatever position a lot of these athletes are finishing in, those parents are just pleased to see them out being involved in triathlon, which is really cool. And yeah, the atmosphere at the finish line is really positive. That rain's held off, thankfully, and yeah, I think the celebrations can finally begin for a few of these athletes who have had to race twice today, and this is their final finish line.
Yeah, it's actually quite staggering, you know, given the format. You know, obviously we had the individual race this morning where athletes were racing anywhere from, you know, sort of 35, 40 minutes, you know, almost up to an hour. And then nearly 2 hours later, they're, you know, being asked to come out and really absolutely give everything again over that sort of 15, 20 minutes. You know, it goes to show just how strong these athletes are and how much training goes into what they're doing.
Yeah, nice work. Look at the shades on it.
So as a local, Dougal, you know, what would be the best hangout from a recovery standpoint this afternoon? Is there some good gelato around?
Absolutely. I can tell you about 3 or 4 places that I like to frequent for my gelato addiction, but I'm actually noticing a few athletes braving the lake right now, and that's a really good recovery, standing in cold water and, you know, getting waist deep and helping shunt the tired waste products, I guess, or the byproducts of hard exercise back towards the heart and eventually to be filtered through the body. So a few very diligent athletes are delaying celebrating, I guess, by following that sort of recovery protocol and standing in the lake. But yeah, I'm sure gelato might be on the agenda for quite a few of them too.
Yeah, excellent. And just from my viewpoint, Dougal, I think we actually just had the last athlete cross the finish line. So it's almost bringing a close to the day's proceedings.
Yeah, it does look that way, doesn't it? And I can say that the atmosphere is bigger and better than it was before. So while the race might be coming to a close, it is a time to reflect and to celebrate for the athletes and their support networks, the staff and the families and the people that make this event possible, Chris. So over to you for some final comments.
Yeah, obviously just a big thanks to the event provider and, you know, allowing us to piggyback off the Challenge family race yesterday. You know, that's been a hugely advantage today. You know, just logistically, it takes so much to put a race like this on. You know, and it's pretty fair to say that everyone's had a safe, fun, fair race today. So big thanks to Bill and his team for delivering a great event. And I guess in closing, just as I say, just please feel free to reach out, and if there's any way that TriNZ can help and assist in keeping athletes within the program and, you know, really adding opportunities to such a great sport and building, you know, what we're going to see in Tokyo Olympics has been a pretty successful year. Please just reach out either through your Tri Club or, you know, through the triathlon.kiwi website, you know, and we'll answer any question. So big thanks to Dougal for your efforts today. It's been great working with you and Laura Siddle this morning. You know, it's obviously great to have 2, you know, such professional, long-standing athletes on the agenda, and, you know, adding your thoughts and around the racing. It's been great. But yeah, I guess from our standpoint, we'll see you next year.